Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Brendan Bias from DutchGFX.com and welcome to another Tutorial Tuesday. Or Wednesday, depending on, your time zone and all that. Still Tuesday on my end, probably Wednesday your time. I don't know, it's pretty late. So anyway, before I show off what it is we are creating in today's tutorial, really quickly, I just wanted to show off the new loading screen for Photoshop CC. Bam! Look at that sexiness. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sexy. Okay, so anyway, let me show you guys what it is that we are creating today. So, this is the Black Diamond text effect. It is a recreation of the Black Diamond speed art video that was created in December of 2010. If you guys want to check out the original for the original speed art, just go ahead and look in the description. I will provide a link to that so you guys can go ahead and check that out. So let's go ahead and check out some of the things that we are putting into this effect. Obviously, for starters, we've got some 3D text that we'll be creating here in Photoshop CC. If you are using Photoshop CS6 Extended, you'll be able to accomplish this in that as well. And also, if you have Cinema 4D or any other 3D engine, those will work just fine. So anyway, on top of this, we are going to have a cool little halftone background. We've got a set of 3D perspective rectangles on the bottom, and we got some flares. We've got all kinds of fun stuff going on here. So what do you say we kind of jump into this, because this is going to be a long one. That's what she said. Ha, beat you guys to it. So anyway, I like having my standard 1920 by 1080 resolution, RGB color mode, and a white background. And for the name of this, let's go ahead and name it Black Diamond. And hit OK. Hit Ctrl-0 to zoom into canvas size. And the first thing I'm going to do is invert this by hitting Ctrl or Command-I on my keyboard, so that way it's black rather than white. And I'm going to unlock the background by double-clicking on it, and I'll rename it BG, just because I really don't like having a background layer. I don't know why, I just like unlocking that background layer. So let's start off by bringing up our rulers by hitting Control or Command-R. I've got some notifications on Facebook going on apparently. And let's make a ruler in the middle of our document here. It should snap right there for you. And we'll do that horizontally and vertically, so that way we have a grasp on where the center of our document is. And let's go ahead and get rid of those rulers, again with Control or Command-R. And let's start off by creating a new layer, and this layer is going to be our halftone layer. And for this, let's have our rectangular marquee tool selected, and we'll make a selection around the top half of our document, which is nice and easy thanks to our guides here. And for this, let's swap to our gradient tool by hitting the letter G. And let's make sure that this is the default foreground to background color. And of course, we're going to have this from black to white. And it's going to be a linear gradient with the normal mode and 100% opacity. And for this, let's just click and drag from the top all the way down to the bottom. And we'll get this cool little black to medium gray gradient at the top half of our document. And we'll go ahead and go to Filter. Let's go to Pixelate and choose Color Halftone. And for this, you can experiment as you please, but I'm just going to use 10 across the board here. Put 10s in all of these values, and we'll hit OK. And it'll give us this cool like sideways halftone effect, which is, I don't know, I like that it's sideways just because it's, a little bit more unique than just a straight up and down halftone. And for this, let's set the opacity to 8%. Of course, you can change that value as you please. And let's also create a new layer between the BG and the halftone, and we will call this gradient. And for this, let's make a selection across the bottom half instead of the top half. And we'll swap back to our gradient tool by hitting the letter G. And let's swap our foreground and background colors by hitting the letter X on our keyboard. So now we should have a white to black gradient. And let's change this sucker to radial. And for this, we'll just click and drag from the middle off to the side here and let go. We'll get this nice little gradient in the middle. And let's go ahead and put the the opacity down to about 12%. And you'll notice when we do that, we get a lot of banding in here because, let's face it, there's not that many shades of gray between this point and the black, so it's going to create that banding effect. So to kind of mask that so that it looks a little bit smoother, we're going to add in a little bit of noise. So let's go to Filter, and we'll choose Noise and add some noise. And for this, all we're going to do is an amount of 10%, the distribution set to uniform, and monochromatic checkmarked. So we'll hit OK. And I'm just going to show you guys real quick what this looks like up close. And you can see that it's kind of smooth looking thanks to the noise. Obviously, the noise itself is kind of pixelated, but it looks a lot better than just having that straight up just banding artifacts. I'd prefer a little bit of noise as opposed to some banding. So that is going to be my course of action right there. So next up, let's go ahead and add a new layer above the halftone, and we are going to call this the black gradient. And for this, once again, go to your gradient tool, and we'll swap back to black as our foreground color. And let's go to the options up top and choose the second option to set this to black to transparent. And of course, making sure we're still on radial gradient, let's make a gradient from the center, again, all the way out to the right-hand side, maybe a little bit shorter. And we'll get a cool, like, inverted spotlight. I really don't know what to call it. It's just a black gradient. Get over it. Alright, so for this sucker, let's add a layer mask on top of it. And still with your gradient tool selected, let's go up top and change it from radial to linear. And I'm going to zoom in, and let's make a gradient from just below the center point up to the middle and let go. And you'll notice that we get a cool little fade for that gradient, which is kind of cool. So next up, let's go ahead and create our rectangles that have that little 3D perspective. So if you want to hide your guides while you do this, you can do so by hitting Control semicolon or Command semicolon if you're on a Mac. And let's go ahead and grab ourselves the rectangle tool off to the left-hand side. And let's make the fill a white color, and we'll hit OK. And for this, let's just click and drag a random size rectangle. It's really up to you what size it is, and we will let go. And for this, let's go grab our path selection tool off to the left-hand side. And while holding the Alt and the Shift key, or the Option Shift key if you're on a Mac, let's click and drag this shape off to the right-hand side. You might have to let go of Shift and then hold down Shift again, so that way it moves off to the side. And we'll just kind of click and drag these like so, kind of trying to keep them evenly spaced. If you're kind of anal about it, you can go in and measure the distance between each of these as you so choose. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's make one more to make a nice set of 7 here. And looks like the spacing is a little uneven here and there, so I'll just kind of click on each of these rectangles and move them about accordingly. And so that looks pretty good. So now I will click on the first rectangle and then shift click the rest of them to make sure they are all selected. And let's transform these suckers by hitting Control or Command T. And let's also kind of put these a little bit more towards the middle while we're at it. Somewhere right there is looking pretty good. Let's click and drag the top portion on down to the middle of the document. I'll bring up the guides to make sure that it's indeed hitting the center. Yep, we are set to go on that front. So now what we're going to do is, while holding the Control and the Alt key, that would be the Command and Option key if you're on a Mac, click and drag. Oops, sorry, you have to hold Shift as well, apparently. So it's Control, Alt, Shift, or Command, Option, Shift while you're dragging one of these corners in, and it will kind of give it that 3D perspective feeling like so. And let's also click and drag the bottom portion outwards a little bit to make it look like that. And I'll let go of all the modifier keys so I can click and drag this the center point upwards to kind of trim up the rectangles a little bit. And let's put these right about there. Looks pretty good. I'll actually stretch these out a little bit more. That's actually looking pretty good for me, so I'll hit the check mark to commit that transformation. And apparently in Photoshop CC, they changed how rectangles and things of that sort work. So it's asking you if you want to convert it from a live shape into a regular path, and just hit yes, that's perfectly fine. So next up, let's go back to our rectangle tool, and let's kind of zoom in on one of these rectangles, and we'll just click and drag a rectangle that's about the same size as that ending points. And that's looking pretty good, so I'll swap back to my path selection tool by hitting the letter A. And once again, I'll click and drag this while holding the Alt and then the Shift key, and I'll kind of match that up. And let's make sure that this is right on the money. And if you find that you're a little bit off in terms of size, you can bring up the Transform tool by hitting Control or Command T, and simply click and drag the side off to match where the end of the shape goes. So I'll commit that transformation, and let's go ahead and make another copy and move it on over. And for those of you that don't know this trick already, there might be some new viewers that are watching this. I'm zooming in and out using my scroll wheel on my mouse, which you can enable by hitting Control or Command K to bring up your preferences here. And then there's zoom with scroll wheel, which you can check mark. So let's go ahead and make sure that this is looking pretty good on both corners. Looks great to me, so I'll go ahead and move this on over. Looking good on that end, and looking great on that end as well. And let's move this on over. And let's nudge that with my arrow key, make sure that's matching up. Man, these are behaving rather well today. I like it. I don't have to like resize this 100,000 times, which is nice. Very nice. All right, so last one, making sure that it matches up rather well. Wow, I lucked out on that. All of them matched in size perfectly after finishing up that first one. So, something that I kind of like to do, which is inspired from the original, is to select all of these rectangles and then nudging them down a couple of pixels, so that way there's a slight gap between the top half and the bottom half. It gives it a cool broken up feeling, which is, I don't know, just a little bit more interesting. So let's select both Rectangle 1 and Rectangle 2, and let's put them into a group by hitting Control or Command G. And we can just rename that Rectangles so we know what the heck's going on in there. And let's change the opacity on these suckers to, let's try 6%, and that will make them nice and faded for us. And let's also add in a mask on this so we can fade the edges. So let's add in our layer mask and bring back our guides with Control or Command semicolon. And let's go back to our gradient tool, and we'll swap back to our first setting, which is the foreground to background color. And then we'll swap our foreground and background color so it's from white to black rather than black to white. And also remember that we need to swap this from linear to radial. And this time around, let's click and drag from the center down to the bottom right-hand corner, and that will give us a cool little faded feeling. And once again, if you have the mask for the rectangle selected, you can go to Filter and apply that Add Noise to it, and that will smooth out that gradient for you. So it's so it's nice and smooth rather than having that banding to it. Let's see, what next can we do? I think we are ready to add in our text. So let's hide our guides, bring up our text tool by hitting the letter T. And the font that I'm using for this is called SF Automaton or Automaton. I have no idea how that's pronounced. If you want to download this yourself, just look in the description for a download link so you can download and install that font. The settings I'm using for this is to have the regular font face at 170 points, the anti-aliasing set to sharp with the text centered, and I'm going to make this text black. And so let's go ahead and click somewhere in the middle, and we'll type out the words black diamonds, or whatever the heck you want on that case. And just for the record, all of these are lowercase. They just happen to, make the font face in all caps, which is kind of cool. And let's hit the check mark to commit that text. And something that you'll notice is when you first apply this text or type it out, all of the letters are going to be relatively close together. So if you want to space those out, just open up the character panel off to the right-hand side. And if you don't have that, you can just go up to the window menu and choose character. Everything is in alphabetical order, so it's easy to find. And just change this VA setting, which is the tracking method, from 0 to like 100 or 75. Somewhere in that general area should work pretty well. And I want to center this on my canvas, so I'm going to swap back to my Move tool, or you can hit the letter V to swap to that. And let's select the canvas by hitting Control or Command A. And up top, I'm going to choose the second icon and the fifth icon. And those two together will center it vertically and horizontally on our canvas. So let's hit Control D to deselect that. And before I forget, I want to add in a shadow beneath this text. So just for the time being, I'm going to put this back to white so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to select the rectangles group so that way the layer that I'm adding will be between rectangles and black diamonds. Let's go ahead and grab our ellipse tool off to the left-hand side here. And for this, let's bring up our guides once more. And we'll click and drag from the center while holding the Alt or the Option key. And I'm going to make this roughly the same width as our text. But I'm going to have this a lot skinnier than that. So somewhere around there is looking pretty good, and I'll let go. And that will create a nice ellipse for us. And I'll use my Move tool to move it up here in this general area. I really have no idea where it's at. There it is. I'll just move this up right about there. So as you can see, all I'm doing is moving this ellipse somewhere upwards. It really doesn't matter where it is. And I'm going to put the fill on this ellipse down to 0. And then I'm going to add in a drop shadow. And for this, let's make sure that the opacity is at 100%. Let's turn off the global light and change that to 90 degrees. And then we'll just amp up the distance until we see, whoops, I put that up a little bit too much. We'll just put up the distance until we can see that appear kind of near. Okay, so screw it. I'm just going to click and drag downwards. There we go. If you click and drag this shadow downwards, you can put it right here underneath the black diamond text. So right around there is looking pretty good. I'll mess with the size a little bit to kind of soften it up and maybe put up the spread to make it a little bit thicker. And so you get the general idea. Just kind of put up the distance to a point where the shadow appears beneath the black diamond, and then just kind of mess with the size and the spread so that it looks like a nice little shadow underneath the text. So let's go ahead and hit OK, and let's get rid of those guides once again by hitting Control semicolon. And now we are ready to turn this sucker into some 3D text. So once again, let's put this back to black for the color here. And let's go to 3D and choose New 3D Extrusion from Selected Layer. It's going to ask you if you want to switch to the 3D workspace. I don't need to because I already have the 3D panel off to the right-hand side, so I'll click No. And voila, we've got some cool looking 3D text, which obviously needs some work. So first thing we're going to do is select the black diamond group, and we are going to go to this middle icon in the Properties panel, which is the cap. And for this, let's click on the contour and put this bottom left-hand point to somewhere around the input of 50%, and we'll click OK. And then once again, we'll go back to the cap, and let's go ahead and change the width to about, let's try 42%. And let me show you what's going on here. If I hit Control H, I can hide all the 3D stuff that's going on. This just puts a nice little bevel on the front of our text, which in my opinion looks, pretty cool, which is why I'm putting it on there. You can just ditch that if you really don't like how it looks. So anyway, let's go ahead and make the text look a little bit cooler coloring-wise. I'm going to go ahead and select the black diamond front inflation material, and that should be the first material inside your black diamond object. And for this, let's select the specular. And all we're going to do for this is go and click the -1 color or sorry, we don't even need to click -1. We can just click where it says -2, and that will put down the color a little bit. That's actually a little bit, it's not quite as dark as I was hoping. Let's change the stop to -3.9, and that will darken it up nicely for us. Check that out. Yeah. So let's hit OK for this sucker, and now let's select the black diamond extrusion material, which is the third material in the black diamond object. And for this, let's select the diffuse, and we'll choose a white color. But this time, let's go +1, and that actually looks pretty good. We have the RGB at 2.0. And the intensity, let's actually bump that up a little bit more, maybe 1.4 on the intensity, so that way it's a little bit brighter. And we will hit OK. And so that should be about all we need to do for that. And let's click render. Okay, so this is going to take a little while for it to render, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here until it's done. I will be back momentarily. Alright, so it looks like we are finished rendering here, and I wasn't keeping track, but that was only like, what, maybe 5-10 minutes at max? I don't know. I should check that out after this video is done rendering and stuff. So anyway, now we've got our text ready here, let's start adding in some of the cool stuff that makes this sucker really freaking pop. So let's see, what should we do first here? I think we are in order for some lens flares. So let's see, so what I'm using here are some lens flares from Militia, which are free to use, so feel free to look in the description if you would like to go download these yourself. And let's just drag one of these suckers in, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be 100% size here, and let's hit the confirmation there. This one I really don't care for as much, so I'll just confirm that as well. And then this one I will also make 100% size. Okay, so maybe not. This one's actually bigger than I remember it being. So let's actually keep that. Let's keep this one down to size. So somewhere around there is looking pretty good. But before I commit that, let's actually right-click and flip that horizontally because I want to put this somewhere over that side. Looks pretty good, and I'll confirm that as well. And this sucker is, he's going to go somewhere right here. So I'm going to scale him down while holding the Alt and the Shift key. And somewhere right there is going to look pretty good. So I'll commit that as well. Before I start moving these suckers all over the place, I'm going to select all of these layers and set their blend mode to linear dodge. So that should give it a nice little blending feeling to it. And let's see, I believe this was, nope. That's not the one I want. There we go. This one should go underneath the black diamonds. And let's put that right around there. Looks pretty good. And let's apply a layer mask and grab our brush tool. And with this, we will just kind of fade out that edge over there. And also, while I'm at it, I'm going to fade out the lower portion of this particular lens flare because it is rather intense, and I don't want it to interfere with all the stuff that's going to be going on at the bottom. So let's just make sure that this sucker is fully opaque here, and also I need to go back in and fade out that edge over there. Okay, looking much better. So that's blending a lot nicer than it was before. So actually, I take that back. I need to bring back this little bit. There we go, much better. So let's go on to our next lens flare over here. Let's see. So there we go. This one is going to go right in that same spot, just kind of complementing the one that's behind the black diamond. And I don't see any edges on that one that need masking, so I'll move on to the next flare. This one I'm actually going to rotate around. Again, I'm using the transform tool, which is Control-T or Command-T, depending on whether you're on a Mac or a PC. And I'm going to have this kind of come off of the letter D, like so. So that looks pretty good. We'll put that right about there where it matches up. Nice and pretty. So let's see, what else do we have? We've got this sucker right here, which definitely needs some masking. So let's do this really quick, just kind of masking out some of those harsher edges. And let's put that down over there. And that looks very, very nice. So let's see. Oh yeah, holy crap, I totally forgot. We need to add in a nice glow to some of the white portions of that text. So let's turn off all of these lens flares that we had. Let's turn off everything, actually, except for the background and the black diamond here. And let's go to our channels and control click or command click the thumbnail for the RGB channel to load it up as a selection. And let's create a new layer above black diamond, and we will call this glow. And we are going to fill this in with white, and since I have white as my background color, I can use the shortcut control backspace, or that would be command delete if you're on a Mac, and that will fill that in with white for us. And let's deselect that by hitting control D. And I'm going to do a slight blur to the glow. So let's go to filter, let's go to blur and apply a Gaussian blur. And I'm just going to keep it at about 5 pixels, which looks pretty good to me. And I'll hit OK. And let's see. One thing that you can do, it's completely up to you. If you don't want this glow to apply to the front face of the text and just have it only applied to the white portions of it, something that we can do is turn off the glow. We'll select the black diamond layer, and I'll hit Control or Command H to hide the 3D options for that. And I'm going to go grab my magic wand tool, and for this we'll choose a tolerance of 32 with anti-aliasing on, and then contiguous and sample all layers turned off. And we'll just click on the front face for the font there. And I'm missing some parts, so I'll select that. And that's not too bad. All right, so let's just kind of look around. Some of these parts are going to be selected that you don't want. For example, actually no, that's about right. So seeing as this looks nice and good for us, let's go ahead and go to our glow layer and apply that as a layer mask. My bad, I did that the wrong way around. We need to actually invert that mask there. So with the mask selected, we'll hit Control or Command I. There we go, that's much better. So now that should only be like on the outer edges of the font there. And if you want to kind of have it leak a little bit into the font, we can go into the mask properties and put up the feather a little bit. And so that way it should just have a little slight glow. Let me zoom in. So that was without the feather, and that's with the feather. So it does have a slight bit of glow to the edge of the font there. So let's go ahead and turn everything back on. And let's just do a little preview of what the glow is looking like. I actually kind of want to duplicate the glow, so let's duplicate that with Control or Command J to kind of intensify it a little bit. I think that looks rather nice. And another thing that I want to add in is a couple flourishes behind the text. So let's make a new layer below the black diamonds, and let's bring up, or sorry, let's put that into a group by hitting Control or Command G, and we'll just name that flourishes. And this is just in case you want to create a couple different layers for your flourishes. And the flourishes that I'm using, you can once again find in the description. I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom here. Let's pick one of these good looking flourishes. Nah, I don't want that one. I think I like, nope, not that one. This one looks pretty good. So one thing that you can do, guys, is open up the brush panel on the right hand side by pressing F5 on your keyboard. And this is nice to have as you're doing this because what you can do is put down the size of the brush, and let's also put up the spacing just so I only see one or two of the of these brushes in here. And then you can mess with the rotation, and you can see beforehand the rotation of the brush before you actually put it down, which is pretty handy to have. So let's just add this in a few spots. Oop, obviously having it white instead of black, that was kind of a dumb error on my part. And let's put this maybe on each side of the corners there. Let's also put one like right around there, and maybe one more facing the other way, down and over here. So that's not looking too bad. We can apply another brush, and we'll put down the size once again and mess with the rotation. Let's put this one, let's put that right there, and we'll just kind of do this randomly. There's no exact art for this. It's just kind of experimentation and what seems to kind of match up as you come across it. However, one thing that I noticed does match up rather well, if I could find it, I think it's this brush right here. So size it down, put up the spacing a little bit so I can get the angle just right. This one right here matches up rather nicely with the letter K, so I can actually, let's size this up so it kind of matches up and add that in. I just think how it's cool how that kind of comes off of the letter K. And we can also try to make this match up with the I and make that go up. That looks pretty cool in itself. And let's just do one or two more. Was that the one I just selected? No, it's not. So let's try this one for the letter D. Let's put that right there. So anyway, you just kind of do these pretty randomly. Again, there's no exact science to it. Just kind of play around, see what looks nice, and try not to go too haywire. I think I'm putting in a few too many, but who gives a crap? I mean, it looks nice and pretty either way. So I think we're doing pretty good on the flourishes. If you want to, you can put down the opacity, but I like having them at full-blown opacity. Now, the original speed art added in a slight bit of smoke to the background, but I wasn't able to find anything that looked that great. So I'm thinking that this is about as good as we're going to get on that front. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you guys also got a pretty good result in the end. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and in the comment section below. And oh shoot, I almost forgot something. This is completely unrelated to the tutorial itself, but throughout the last week we had a little bit of a competition on our Facebook page where we would take this image right here. It's I think this guy's name is Kim Jong. I really don't remember. It's the fat Korean ruler, whatever he is, that no one really likes. And his face was completely done over by someone on Imager, and basically I just let him have at it with creations on what they can put on his face. And my personal favorite, where was it? I don't know why, but this one right here is my favorite out of all of them. It's just so funny. I mean, that Nicolas Cage, there's just something about his face that I find hilarious, and just seeing that on here is just awesome. But so that was by Jordan Heavers, so congratulations, dude. That was my favorite out of all of them. But also another favorite, which was released, well, this guy posted it yesterday. He didn't email it to me like he was supposed to. Scander Ben, come on. You're supposed to email it to me, but he put Shrek's face on there. That's awesome too. But just to kind of go through some of the other creations that were released, we had this one by Alexander Custers. We have Andy McLaughlin. We have Caitlin Beardsley put on Mr. Bean, and she also did like a baby face. And then we had I can't really, whatever. I'm just gonna start going through these because some of these names I really don't know how to pronounce. Got some funny faces. We have like a Hitler Harry Potter here. His face is like being torn up from the inside. We have a Joker, which I thought was really cool, but they didn't give me a full-size version, which just kind of sucks. I will nuke you. Ugh. And I don't know what this is supposed to be, but well done. It matches rather well. This is, I know that's supposed to be something, but I don't know what it is. I nuke you. What is with you guys and putting nuke you as the title for that? I don't get it. The Stoner Dude, which I thought was awesome. What's his name from GTA? I forget his name. I don't play enough GTA apparently. A Terminator clown called Mr. Rufflenator. Yeah, I don't know where your inspiration from that came from, but good on you for that. An upside down face. I don't know. That's simple. Someone screaming apparently. And then the actual Kim Jong-un, like whatever his freaking name is. And Shrivit, what is with this, dude? What what were you on when you created this? This is, oh my gosh. And then this one's just kind of derpy. That's funny. Kakashi, oh yeah. So anyway, props to all you guys for making all these creations. I know I was just only going to show off one of my favorites, but I really enjoyed all of them. So thank you guys for participating in the group. I will be doing another little, not tutorial, but another competition here pretty soon. So for those of you guys that want to join in on all the fun, just go to facebook.com/groups/checkitfans and be a part of all our fun creations and stuff. So that's all I've got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.